Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to the Rebel, Reject, Create podcast, Season 4. And today, my guest is Arne van Oosterom, who is the founder of the Future Skills Academy and renowned design thinker. And yeah, well, actually, that list is way too long, so we're not going to get into all of it. You can see his links underneath. Arne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Excellent. So, you're a highly creative individual,
Yeah, I've been told. Yes.
right?
Well, it's an
So,
interesting thing you said. Actually, sorry. Actually, now that triggers me
good.
because that's not how I don't think that's not how I think of myself. I mean, I think I have an ADHD brain. So that made me turn me into a creative. But it's interesting how I don't define myself th that way.
That is insanely interesting. Why not?
Well, because you just do what you do. I didn't go out and say I'm going to be a highly creative individual.
Hmm.
It's just like people tell you because I notice that other people have don't have that amount of creative urge or like it's not something I control, right? And it's just like I've noticed that other people don't, or I think they don't. I don't know. I've never been someone else. How you define yourself is usually very different than other people, how other people define you. I've learned from other people telling me that I'm a highly creative individual, but I'm just saying this because, um, you know, um, we are all different in a certain way, but I think a lot of people struggle with, what is normal and how to act in a normal way. The way you think is normal, the way other people seem to behave, dealing with, the whatever system they're part of, whatever is required, whatever deadlines, whatever, and I know so many people who struggle with this idea of like, oh, I should act whatever normal is. And
Yeah,
how do other people do that? So it's actually interesting to learn about yourself from other people.
yeah,
You go like, oh, so I'm different.
right. But I mean, I love that response. I'm not creative. I just do what I do. And the reason why I love it is because I firmly believe that all human beings actually are creative. It's part of what makes
Mm,
us what we are.
yeah.
So I think your answer is, in actual fact, highly accurate. Just by doing what you do as a human being, you can't be anything other than creative.
I think so. Yeah. But I think depending on the context on
Right.
how you have been shaped by environment and the way you were your upbringing, your education, your work environment, all the things that shaped you, I think that has either supported creative behavior or not. And I think that is so in my case, I never had any real boundaries. So I'm a school dropout. I always say because of my dyslexia. I think now when I'm older, I'm thinking really. I think I think that was just a excuse not to go through school. But I struggled with school because of my dyslexia.
Right.
I love learning. Learning is like that. You'll never stop learning. It's wonderful. But I couldn't work within that institution, or I couldn't just
Yeah.
I don't know, I couldn't do it. And but my parents were always fine. They were fine. They were like, "Oh, he'll be fine. He'll be okay." And it was like, and I was always like, "Really? Are you sure? You sure?" My mother was always proud of me. She was always like, saying he's really going his own way. He's finding. And it was like, I have no clue what I'm doing, mother.
But you,
But
you
they were
made a
all,
very, very cool distinction at the beginning of that answer, and she said, if your creative behavior isn't supported.
yeah,
Now, that to me kind of suggests a distinction, a difference between being creative in your head and then what people actually see out in the world.
oh yeah, I guess so. Well, I mean, I think if behavior, the way you behave as a human or the way you allow yourself to behave. Um, if you allow yourself certain things, try new things, learn, and not break the mold or not listen to what other people tell you, or if there's a so it's kind of difficult if you think about it because things are really messy. It's not like, oh, this is what I want to be, or this is how I want to behave, or but there is a kind of a psychological safe space that you need to be creative, and
Yeah.
especially when you're young, right? And so you don't lose the creativity when you're young. And I never had anything but support, and or at least at least I felt it as support. I wasn't given any kind of restrictions, or nobody ever told me like you have to decide what you wanted to become.
Yeah.
You have to kind of choose. I come from a creative kind of family. People were expecting me to become something of a artist, or something with art, with drawing, with painting, something like that. Or and then it became maybe photography. And it was like, oh, now he's really into music, so maybe music. Oh, he's going to do some theater. Oh, maybe it's theater. Oh, oh, it's design. Oh, design is like, but it somehow also sort of somehow was connected with creativity. So it was expected of me. And I just, yeah, there's a word in Dutch for this, or a name for a person like that. Um, in Dutch, and I can't translate it, but it literally translates as a Sunday's child, and it's a zondagskind. And I felt
Someone who
like
can do a
that.
little bit of everything.
Well, no, actually, no. It's just like, it just always seemed to, you know, go well. It just always seemed to kind of somehow, it never goes really badly or something. So you don't have to do a lot for it. It looks like he's just kind of messing around, and just like, and then somehow, yeah, he's fine.
Yeah.
Somehow he's fine. That's what my parents kind of thought.
Yeah.
I was like, he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Somehow he will land on his feet.
I
You
mean,
know.
that's a really interesting observation, right? Because if in my delving into like how creativity works and what's going on with it, one of the key things is that if you try too hard, if you push too much, if you push too much pressure, it kind of disappears.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're more having fun, like there's no a lot of pressure, and you can follow things as they emerge into their logical next steps, one
Yeah.
tends to discover more interesting things than if you're really pushing towards a specific goal.
Yeah, you have to be allowed to be curious
Yeah,
about things, and not, and if you're curious about things, you will venture into the unknown. You will venture into things you have no clue about, you don't know about, or you're just trying, experimenting. If there's no expectation of you to be the expert in that, and no, it's just because you're curious about it. That's a very, that's a very liberating thing, right? And it wasn't like something that I had consciously. I have a creative need. I need to create. If I don't create something, if I sit behind a computer all day, or if I, and if I haven't created anything like in a day, made some music, made a drawing, I don't know, something, wrote something, or whatever. I get, uh, I don't know, nervous, anxious, stressed, or something. I need to do something. So that's there. So that's something specific. I don't know if everybody has that. So that's the thing, I've never been someone else. You have never been someone else. So you don't know. You don't know, right? So we're assuming that there are some patterns that we all share, like creative people are this, they are
yeah,
a specific breed of people, which I don't think so. I think it's all really subtle. I think I agree with you. We're all creative in our own way, because
yeah,
we have to go through life as creative problem solvers all the time. Now, it
yeah.
depends a little bit on the
Right.
context, on this environment where you live. In the Netherlands, you might not have to be such a creative problem solver, because everything is kind of organized for you. If you live in a country where nothing's organized, or you really have to figure out how to survive the next day or week, obviously you'll be more of a creative problem solver.
Yeah.
In the Netherlands, you can be quite lazy and just sit back and, if you want to. But still, even in this highly organized country, you need to organize. You need to solve things. You need to go
Yeah.
through life. You have to get, you need to make a living. You need to have a job. There's stuff happening every day. You have
Right.
to figure out how to deal with these things, right?
Yeah.
And so we are creatives. Of course, we are creatives. We all are, but we don't
Yeah.
allow ourselves to kind of see it or grow it or I don't know, act accordingly or whatever, because we were put into context at
Yeah.
school, in our job environments, where which creativity in the essence of being creative means you're trying new things, right? Is not something that is applauded.
Yeah. Not
It's not
encouraged.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering then, would you think it's fair to say then that people who we say, oh, they're creatives, they're artists, they're designers, they're filmmakers, that they have become noticeably different to people who don't identify as creative because their day-to-day experience and what they actually do ends up over time being quite radically different from the experience of somebody who does not do anything like that.
Yeah. So 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 what was your question? So,
Well, I'm kind of thinking that,
but if it,
say, as a kid, right, you're
yeah,
encouraged to explore and to do creative things, to paint, to write, and then you sit next to a kid who's never been encouraged to do that,
yeah.
and the responses of the two of you are going to be very different to each other, aren't they? Not
Mm.
necessarily because you're different as human beings, although you undoubtedly are, but because part of that difference is fueled by a completely different experience.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're shaped by, and again, that kid that is highly creative in sort of and again, creative, the way we're talking about it now would be like you're creative when you produce certain things like paintings or music or something, right?
Yeah,
So, I mean, creative can also mean, I think people who are in science are also highly creative.
hugely.
Or maths. I mean, my God, how
Yeah,
creative, figuring out kind of equations and stuff like that, which is like, crazily that we're all creatives in our own way. Um, so I'm not really sure. I don't really know, to be quite honest. I think it's I think language often restricts us. It puts us in
mhm.
boxes. It gives us labels, right? And so saying, there are creative people and are or less creative people, put it that way. I don't know if that's true. How do
Yeah.
we define creativity? If you have
Well, we haven't
amazing,
succeeded in that yet.
well, yeah, I mean, maybe that kid that isn't drawing and isn't doing anything is just like, and we would label that person to be not a creative. Maybe that person has an amazing, fantasy and
Yeah,
imagination and I don't know. I don't know, right? And maybe there's a potential that will never be kind of used, maybe because, there's the old saying that there's a book in
everyone,
everyone,
there's a
right?
book inside. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's true because we all have stories, we all have lived experiences, we all go through transitions, we all have those. And maybe there's the difference between the people that can actually create sort of stories or artifacts that sort of create meaning or create an emotional response within others, and we say, okay, that's so that maybe it's
yeah,
about communicating sort of your stories or your emotions or your thoughts or
yeah,
whatever in a way that kind of then creates emotional response from the person looking at that, whatever.
yeah.
I don't know. I really think it's a really difficult conversation if if you dig too deep into it, you go like,
I
really?
agree. It looks obvious once you start, but as soon as you get going, it's not
Well,
obvious.
I mean, the word creative is sort of a vague concept, but even the word designer, that seems like a very specific
Yeah,
thing. And actually, I think that's relatively new.
yeah,
I think it's a relatively new idea that there are designers. I think again, I haven't done deep research into this, But I think there's a moment in time during the Industrial Revolution where sort of the artists slash engineers
Yeah.
slash researchers sort of started becoming divided, and designers started to kind of create artifacts for business.
Yeah.
And I think that if you look a little further, a little more into history, the idea of the engineer, the researcher, the scientists, and the artists were basically the same thing.
Yeah, they were. I mean, philosopher was the word most often used like 3,000 years ago to
Right?
cover
Yeah.
all of that.
So we have created labels, and we've boxed because we became as siloed as the companies that we work
Mm.
in,
Yeah.
right? And we forgot that actually we are humans, and we possess all of the abilities.
Yes.
And maybe sure, there are people with talent, and we're not all going to be Mozart, right? So, but again, that's also part of upbringing.
Yeah.
And so I think it's, to be honest, I think we are always in more chaos than we think we are.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
and we try to create order in that. And then, but if that order becomes too orderly,
Too rigid.
too rigid, right? And then it becomes a problem again. And I
Yeah.
think that we're always kind of moving from this chaos to order to chaos order. But I think the essence of where we are as a planet, as a species, we are in chaos. Oh,
Yeah.
and we're trying to figure out how to deal with the chaos by creating sort of structures all the time, but they
Yeah.
always collapse all the time. And
Yeah.
somehow we do that upon ourselves. We are the ones creating that chaos all the time. But this is where we come full circle to being creatives. Because we are creative beings, chaos is the creative time. This is where we go, oh, there's
Yeah.
chaos, because in chaos you can create new connections. You can go like, oh, everything is a mess. What if I put this together with that? And you're trying to,
Right.
so in a way, creatives are just trying to figure out how to kind of create order and structure, which
Brilliant.
which is an interesting paradox, because at the same
Yeah.
time, creatives like chaos. And so anyway, so
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a really nice kind of retrospective and a way to think about the way things have always been. And now we're heading into even more chaos and unknown, AI, automations, what have you. How important is this human creative thing now and looking ahead?
is it more chaos? I mean, first of all, I thought COVID, we come from a pandemic. That was pretty chaotic. We had financial crisis in 2008. That was a pretty chaotic. The rise of the internet, the dot-com crisis. My
Yeah.
God, that was chaos. Um, you know, First of all, text messages. Will you remember that when that came about?
Yeah.
Sort of, that created a whole new kind of way of communicating between teenagers and
Yeah.
bullying each other. That huge social shift happened. The internet it changed everything, right? Social media, 2006, 7,
Yeah.
it changed everything, right? So that was a big thing. So now AI, is it different? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's just the same. We will,
Different day, same
yeah,
chaos.
same chaos. A lot of shouting, a lot of people going, "Oh, everything is going to be,"
Yeah.
it's just a
Yeah.
tool. It's a great tool. I think the biggest problem is actually not so much the chaos. It's the problem is that there are a few companies that became too powerful and too big.
Right.
I think that's the problem. I think AI is not the problem. The problem is that it's kind of a control. It could be a control mechanism, uh,
Mm.
like social media has become,
Yes.
and it just makes a few people more powerful. And I'm not going to say rich, because rich has nothing to do with money.
Yeah.
They can collect all the money they want, right? Which is like why I have no clue why they do that, but it creates power, and
Right.
power is not a good thing to have in the hands of a few.
Mm.
So I think that's the only real problem we have. But again,
Nice.
we go from chaos to order, from chaos to order. So I think the chaos that is going to come upon us, if I is the collapse of these companies.
Ah, okay. Well, that's very interesting.
That's going to be the biggest problem. It's
Right.
going to be the collapse of these giants, the Amazons, the Meta,
Well, all of them, not just the AI ones, just across the board. These
yeah, because they are too big.
enormous,
Well, because we're part of nature, right? And
yeah,
if
and nature tends towards entropy, so
right.
it's going to
So,
happen.
well, yeah, there's no reason why that wouldn't happen. Unless we are not part of nature and we are something completely, different, but we're not. I think all the evidence points towards that we are just nature. We're nature. And so we follow the laws of nature, and that's going to happen.
Right.
That's my prediction. When, I don't know, and how bad that collapse is going to be, I don't know, but it has to happen. We have to go back to smaller, organized groups of people working together in ecosystems, and a big company that keeps growing. I mean, there's this book about I forgot the name of the author, but and shitification,
Yeah,
it's called, right? This idea that you can only grow if you make your product more shitty. So because you're so powerful, you can do it. So like
yeah.
Google with Google search and
Too
Meta
big
with,
to fail.
yeah, like Facebook is like, how shit is Facebook?
Yeah,
Oh my God, that's like the I really, if they would launch Facebook now like that, no one would
no one will
even
use it.
consider
Yeah, yeah,
signing up to that. It's crap. It's crap. But we have to stay because your whatever your
yeah. It's
family
cool. I have to be on there. All my mates are on
your
there.
nature's still there, right? So
Yeah,
but there's going to be a moment that there's, and we're seeing it, right? So
yeah,
we get, we have we really want to have smaller, more confined, more personal, more closed off communities. We don't want
right.
to, because Facebook is not a community, LinkedIn is not a community. These aren't
Unique.
communities,
Yeah,
right? These are just kind of, someone called it like, they're like a casino, big casino.
yeah. They're marketplaces, effectively.
Yeah. And they're awful, kitschy casinos, and you're totally lost there, and you're like, oh, I just want to
Pulling the
meet.
one-armed bandit, hoping something's going to work. All right, Arne. So if I gave you a whole bunch of that power that you said is really bad for a few individuals to have, what creative change would you like to see in the world that you believe would make it a better place?
Um, well, there's a lot of cliches I would like to kind of start with, obviously. First of all, we have to learn to listen to each other. That's like, I think, probably the biggest thing, that we listen. I mean, truly listen, not just
Yeah,
pretend to
active
listen,
listening, not
but
just
really like
using
active.
your
Yeah,
ears.
yeah,
Yeah,
letting people in, empathy, um, and also, but actually empathy, but acknowledging that you can't truly have empathy for someone else. Meaning, I mean, in the classical meaning of empathy being that you can experience things
what
the
they're
way someone else
experiencing.
experiences, but because you can't.
No,
But by saying you can't actually walk a mile in someone else's shoes, you cannot. So I need to really listen to you, and I have to let you in, and I can't do it without you. I
mm,
need you, right? So we have to somehow, uh, come together, and I listen to you, and I just acknowledge that I will never truly experience things the way you experience them, but I do trust that what you're telling me is the way you experience it, and whether I agree with it or not, that's just that it's just the fact that you say, oh, but that's really how you experience it. That is interesting, right? And I think that's one thing.
it was
Um,
you only allowed one thing. Sorry, it's not that much power. You're only allowed to change one thing.
really, that's all. I had all the power. Well, okay. No, that's the
Sorry,
one thing I
Arne.
should. Darn it. I wanted to have all the money and all the gold too.
Yeah, of
Anyway,
course.
no, seriously, I think that's sort of the problem we have, that we are, because we are disconnected as humans. We
Yeah,
don't read each other's minds. We can't. So we assume, things, right, about other people. And once you start listening to other people, even though they seem very different, you'll discover that we basically all want the same thing. We want to kind of be safe. We want to be healthy. We would like to be happy every now and then, whatever that means,
Yeah.
right?
Let's not that conversation.
Right. Well, I mean, that's search, and we're all trying. We're all
Yeah.
trying, right? We're trying to sort of achieve these things, and we are tribal creatures. We want to be part of something that is bigger than ourselves, something that
Mm,
is more meaningful.
yeah.
So, that's well, if once you start listening to, and then you'll notice like, you're even though you seem to be evil because whatever you voted for someone I hate, um, but in the essence, you actually just wanted the same thing, except that
Yeah.
you're maybe, we don't agree on how to get there, but
Yeah.
that's beside the point. The point is that we want the same thing. Someone talked. There was a book. I forgot the name of that book as well, but it talks about the movable middle.
Mm,
Like you can, like if you have a football field, if you're on the all the way on the left or on the way on the right in your kind of opinions, you can start shouting at each other. But if you find sort of the middle ground, right, sort of something you agree on, which is like, family, kids, I don't know, whatever you agree
mm,
on, and you find something that you have in common, that's your movable middle, that's where you start the conversation with each other. And
brilliant.
from there, you can start kind of talking about other things, but at least sort of you start with a fundamental respect for each other, and then, you can fight, you can argue, but if there's a fundamental respect, then it's a healthy relationship. Then you can, then it's okay. You have to disagree. It's healthy to disagree.
Great, Arne. Thank you, man. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening to this episode of Rebel, Reject, Create, and for joining our tribe temporarily and listening to our conversation about what creativity may or may not be.